thinking, man, like, good Lord.
Soccer has 14 scholarships. Softball has 12. Track has 18 for girls. Go look at the roster of any school she wants to go to and count how many kids are on there and how many are playing, and you will know very quickly how many scholarships they got available. Yeah.
So let me just say this. I'm very highly critical of all coaches, especially track coaches. And, to hear coach say words like periodization, and he's talking about microcycles, cycles, and all the philosophy and physics and psychology. When you hear a coach talk like that, they absolutely know what they're doing. He's studying track, because track coaches don't say words like that if they're not they're not track coaches. He's a track coach. He's not a dad. He's a coach. And I'm saying right now, if you're going to put it in track, figure the coach.
Bring it in. Frankie Rob, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, everything's smooth, man. Can't wait to get this podcast started, man. We got some very, very intelligent gentlemen on here. Gonna give us a lot of insight and definition of what it's all about, track, what it's all about,
Yes, sir. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our very special guest. All right, from St. Johns County, down here in Florida, we have St. John Striders AAU coach Ricky Fields. How you doing, Ricky?
Fantastic, man. Again, thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this podcast and sharing some of my experiences with you guys.
Awesome. And also from way up north from Florida, we have Ohio Heat's AAU track coach Tremaine Peppers. How you doing, Tremaine?
Doing good, buddy. I'm doing real good. I appreciate the invite as well. Just kind of reiterating what Coach said, man. I would love to get some of the information out here and share some of the things that I've learned from college coaches over the last few years of coaching. So thanks for the invite.
Okay, man, that's awesome, man. I'm not going to say too much on this podcast. I want to learn. I want to know everything about track. But before we start, let's go ahead and get, a gist of your background, both of you coaches.
I actually started Ohio Heat Track Club in 2007. I was actually coaching with another club in Columbus, Ohio. They were doing too much of the distance type of running for sprinters, and I didn't agree with it. Tried to get a change. It didn't happen, so I moved on. So that's how Heat was created. After about 6 or 7 years of that, I went to the high school realm. Coached at a school called Pickerington Central in Columbus, Ohio, and won a couple of state championships with those guys. I got about 7 or 8 athletes currently right now in Division I track and field. Most recently, I had 2 kids just signed this year to Ohio State, and one of the topics we're going to cover today, they both got full ride, so I can't wait to kind of get into that.
Again, I'm from St. Johns County. That's in Jacksonville, Florida area. I started my program about 12 to 13 years ago. And really, I just started out because in Florida, track is big, but where I live, the other programs are so far away. So I had 2 daughters that wanted to run track at a very young age, and I just started the program in this area because didn't exist. We started very small. Our team went from 4 to 5 athletes to 80 athletes, and we could have gotten it bigger. We decided to keep it smaller to 75 athletes, no more. And I don't do this. I do this to help the kids and give back. We've been coaching this. I have a coaching staff of about 10 coaches. We coach sprints, hurdles, distance, javelin throws, multi-event. We kind of do all of track and field. So that was our goal. That was our intent. And since then, our program has blossomed to probably put about 28 kids in D1 track and field. We've had a lot of good success so far, and right now I coach also in the local high school, Creekside High School. I also the sprint and head coach there at Creekside in Jacksonville, Florida, and we probably have created a lot of buzz with one of the top sprinters in the country, Michaela Mills, which is a sophomore. So we're really excited about what we've done for the last 12 years.
That's awesome, man. One of the biggest things, it seemed like both of y'all programs, even though they're in very different areas of the country, both of y'all created programs off of a need to, help the community. One of the things we got to remember as adults is that our first thing is to have a program and have something. We do that just to keep kids off the street. We get so caught up in winning that it's so big, man, just to kind of just keep kids out of the street.
Yeah, I think you absolutely right about that, Randy. Sometimes we, sink into the wins and losses versus the development of the community, which is all started for. But I think both of these men on the phone today put it out there like that, like, hey, man, we're not looking at 5-6 kids like most other sports, but we got like 28 to 75 kids that we trying to mentor, and if it comes to get more, then we'll take more type thing, So I think it's a real good situation, and I'm also a parent that want to get kids into track and field because I'm in Florida. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, but you got to know somebody to get somewhere to get that done. So that's what we're going to introduce to people like myself, is the know-how to get in contact with the right people to get your kids developed and into that sport as well.
All right, Coach. So, Coach Ricky, when is the right time to start your kid in track and field?
That's a great question. That's not a clear-cut answer because everyone's got their thoughts and process about that. But I personally, let me just give you how we do it. I think kids can start running anytime, first of all. But as far as running track and field, especially on a club level, how competitive club is, whether it's AAU or USATF, I think anywhere I'm seeing this, the kids about 8 years old. We don't start until a kid is 8 years old. And a lot of that is because some of the meets don't have age groups that are younger. So the events are not. There's not as many events for kids younger than eight years old. So we start about 8 years old, and if you want to get your kid, prepared or doing something before that, I always recommend other sports such as soccer or basketball, or something that keeps them doing a lot of cardio, a lot of running. But as far as track and getting serious about it, we don't start until a kid is about 8 years old.
Okay, awesome. So, Coach Tremaine, you were saying something about a 5-year-old league or something like that up there in Ohio?
In Ohio, they have, and I frowned upon it when they first started because I shared coaches' sentiments in terms of kids being young. My biggest thing was being fearful that, track is rigorous and it's hard and it's mental, and depending on what day you're doing, even a speed day is hard. A 5-year-old, even some 7, 8, 9-year-olds can't handle it. And, we don't want to push them away from the sport. So my thing was, never trying to have younger kids out there. And then they created this, what they call Pee Wee division out here in Ohio. So they actually do a Pee Wee division, and they do a Pee Wee championship at our region. So it's a completely separate meet, but it's for 5-year-old age group, 6-year-old age group. I think maybe 4. I think those 4, 5, 6. We very rarely have some 4-year-olds, but there are a lot of 5 and 6-year-olds that want to run. Some of it, I would say the majority of it is those 5 and 6-year-olds have 10, 12, 13-year-old brothers and sisters that run. And they see their sisters getting notoriety and getting attention, so they want it too. And that's kind of where that kind of started for us out here. So last year was the first year I allowed, younger kids. I had a father whose son was one of the kids I coached in high school, one of the best athletes I ever had, and he really wanted to get his younger kids involved. And they were 5 and 6 years old, and he said that he would take over the weight of the program, but for those ages. And so we put it out there. We'll take them at 5. And last year we had maybe like 6 or 7 kids. This year we ended up with like 14 or 15 kids that were 5 and 6. But Coach Ansley did a great job with them. They don't overdo it. They only practice 2 days a week.
Okay.
They don't do any of this, heel work and all that crazy stuff we may do. And it's fun for them. So we try to keep it fun and not try to tire them out or wear them up to the point they don't want to do it when they get 8 or 9 or 10. So like I said, Coach is spot on. I agree with him 100%. It just was a need out here for it. So we started, like I said, 2 years ago.
All right, so Coach Chief, we'll start with you on this one also. So I understand you saying you got the Little League, so like you're doing track for a long time or whatever, and you're just doing different events. You know, you're just having fun and stuff like that. When is the time to get serious and like concentrate and focus on certain kinds of events or just one event?
I think my preference usually is, right when they get into the 12 and 13-year-old age group. I mean, most kids, they're really good sprinters, and they're top sprinters. They're going to be sprinters. There's a lot of kids who I think could have good speed, but not the speed to either compete on a national level or a level that, some colleges are going to offer them a lot of money to go to school. So we start trying to, try kids at different things. We have a great hurdle coach. We have a great jumps coach. So we do a lot of different things. We put kids in multi-events and just kind of see what they excel at. But I think you got to kind of start young, and because to me, everything is perfecting your craft. You can have a kid with the best form in the world, at 10 years old, 11 years old, you don't know what happens to him. It's a lot of repetition, a lot of muscle memory to me, and I just think that once you get to that point around 12 or 13, you really got to be serious about what events you're doing and try to perfect those, especially if it's some, jumps, hurdles, things like that you have to keep, emphasis on all the time.
Coach Ricky, you kind of told me something similar, man. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you gotta. First of all, my program, I like kids to, especially when they're young. I like them to try anything they want to try, right? And we're gonna coach them on it. So you're not gonna just come to a meet and hadn't been coached in a particular event. So when I say that, I'm not saying throw a kid in an event and just hope you do well. I'm saying if you think if you're an 800-meter runner and you want to do high jump, we have done that. We still do that. But when it comes to a championship meet or an event, we hone in on what we think you're good at. So we really like kids to try all the track and field, right? Get exposed to the sport itself, to understand it, and you become more educated on it. And if you're young, 8, 9, 10, we like you to try a little bit of this, a little bit of that, jumps, throws. We like to try a lot of different things. As you get older, we feed you a little bit more. We get a little bit more technical. And as you get, into the high school level, that's when we really get extremely technical. Whether it's, we always do running mechanics for everyone. But when I say technical, I'm saying getting technical in that, and for example, how to get out of blocks and get really technical on that. Mm-hmm. And really understand drive phase or accelerations and the terminologies and stuff like that, and pushing back. So we really try to do age appropriate type of training technically. But we still like kids to try everything. We don't hone in until championship meet or a meet that you think it's time to hone in. But we really don't narrow down a kid into events until 13, 14, like the coach said earlier, or a little bit older, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I got a question for y'all. So therefore, I hear y'all both saying when you go hone into the certain talent the kid got. But what caught my attention, you said that you'll let some kids at a younger age try out multiple, I can't say positions, but meets or events, right? I'm sorry. Right, I'm a football dad. I'm sorry, right? So when you try out multiple events, it's like, do you give them expectations like, okay, look, I think based on my experience that you'll be good at this or good at that, and like push them towards where you feel they'd be more effective at? Is that one of the things that you all do in your program? Is like mentor kids into events or anything of that nature?
Yeah, let me. It's Coach Ricky. So I my philosophy is a little bit Coach Mr. With Coach Wade to tell you this. My philosophy is I never listen to the parents, always listen to the kids. And that is, I like the kids to come to our team and whatever they think they want to try out. They're going to do our workout, but whatever they think they want to try out, I let them try it out. But at the same time, it's the coach's responsibility to really put the kid where he thinks the kid's going to be successful at and what their skill set's at. So they can try all that. We let them try everything they want to do and do anything they want to do. Then we assess. And if it's a phenomenal 800-meter runner and she still want to do high jump before it, that's fine in certain meets. But when it's time to do the particular meet, the championship meet, and qualify, If we think she has a better shot and she's a better athlete as an 800-meter runner, we're going to take out 800 out of high jump and let her focus on the event that she's really good at. But our goal is to educate her in the entire sport, track and field.
He couldn't have said it better.
Okay.
Coach Keith couldn't have said it better. I mean, exactly. My philosophy is pretty much exactly the same. We don't listen to parents whatsoever. And we will let kids try some things, try anything they want. And like he said before, we'll coach them up and do our best to make them their best. But at the end of the day, when it comes time to qualify regionals, nationals, club nationals, things of that nature, we're going to put the kid where the kid is best at. So if the kid wants to do the high jump, they're not very good, but they got a chance to medal in the 800, they're running the 800.
All right, going into what you're saying, Coach Tremaine, could you tell our parents on a national level, how in the world would you find the right school or the right track program? What are some things on the internet or something that we can use? Because, I know for a fact, my daughter being in track, but under the wrong tutelage or the wrong teaching or whatever, they can really mess your mechanics and stuff up. So how would you find the right track program in your area? Got any advice on that?
My advice would be to go to practice. Go talk to coaches, talk to kids, and you kind of got to watch and see how they coach, see the type of kids they have on their team. There's some really good teams out here, really, really good teams, but there are also some really bad teams, and there's some bad coaches out here that, really are just coaching track maybe because, they want a little ability to get faster for football. And they're not really in tune with the mechanics of how to coach track, the physiology of how to coach track, or having any sort of philosophy, understanding, nervous system stimuli and things of that nature. So, you really got to sit down and talk to coaches. But I mean, also, one of the things I tell people is, if you don't want to come here, go talk to the next coach and tell him, ask him who he's coached. Give you some, some references and people to talk to that will tell us, what type of coach you are. Because, everybody's going to kind of say, for the most part, and I'm not saying every coach is like this, but most coaches are going to make themselves sound like they're really good at what they do, right? Especially when you're dealing with a kid, like a Tyrese Cooper. If Tyrese Cooper comes to your practice and says, hey, coach, I want you to coach me, you're going to tell Tyrese that you're the best coach in the world. So it's really about, for me, it's about, kind of sitting down, talking to coaches, talking to parents, talking to other kids, watching, getting references and things of that nature. Because, obviously, again, some coaches get something, you get there and just a whole other ball game, which is why you see, even in college right now, there's been a lot of kids, and I'm not sure of the specifics of all of them, but there are some kids that are transferring because they're not being coached well.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point too. If you're talking about how do you find a good, program for a youth kid, under the age of, that's elementary and middle school, I would suggest you look up in, USATF or AAU's website and search for the local track team. You can do that. That's the first thing. Now, how do you know which one is good? Like Coach said earlier, you can do references. I think that's the best way to do it, but you can also look at results, right? And the results don't lie, right? And that the results is the same thing as if you're looking for high school coaches in the local high school, look at the results year after year after year, and that tells you everything about a program. Sometimes you can get a one-hit wonder.
Oh, that's what I was about to ask. That's what I was about to ask. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you can get a one-hit wonder. You can get that, but if you see a program that's every year producing and delivering, somebody or some team, that's year after year got some results in the top 5, top 3 in some event, that coaches that event very well.
Excellent point, Coach.
Yeah, excellent point. Hey, a lot of people say that, that the cream rises to the top. I really don't have a saying for this, but yes, cream does rise to the top. But for some reason, the best players, they drift to better coaches, to better programs. Like, they find a way to the better programs and better coaches because they just understand how important it is to get coached. I need to find a saying for that. But I got something for you guys. So it's a website called Athletic Net or something like that. and it shows like the top runners or whatever. Would I be able to go? I think I can go on this website, click on some of the players' names, and it'll show me like the AAU programs and schools that these players go to. So that might be a good source also.
Absolutely. And there's another website called TFRRS.org, and that high schools are using it now, right? And that rates the top sprinters, top whatever events for high school and college.
Okay.
Also, MileSplit for high school. MileSplit.com. And they actually have one pretty much for each state as well. So they have a USA MileSplit, then they have a Florida MileSplit, Ohio MileSplit, Texas MileSplit, all that. And you can actually follow them on Twitter as well.
Okay, awesome. So my thing is this, for all the other sports, that we had on the show, we talked to our parents about doing it's essential to do the homework. It's essential to go out there and find out the things you need to know to prepare your kid for the next level if that's what you're trying to get them at, man.
I think you're absolutely right. That's why my next question is going to be in the avenues that we always hit. It's like, okay, yeah, we finally realized that we got somebody that can coach our kids and, in their different positions or whatever they're doing. Now it's time, how do we start marketing the kids? How do we start getting the kids' names out there? Like that whole avenue of how you get to the recruiting process of that in track and field. We like I know in girls softball, I heard my daughter got to go on the what is it called, the travel team type things. It's not more so at the school. So my question is that Randy said, what Randy was saying, I kind of feel like that's the avenue we always do, find out ways to get kids to college or get the coaches that involved in the recruiting process to find out how can we get these kids to college. What can I do to get my son or a parent listening can get their kid to a good situation? We got that covered. Now, once they're there, does that particular, do you all help kids get to college, or do you all call coaches and colleges for them, or what's the best avenue to gain access to college via track and field?
Hey, before you answer, let's start with Coach Ricky. But before you answer, I want to kind of say this too. The unique thing about track is either you got it or you don't. Either you make the time or you don't. It's a limit there. Like in football, you can say this person is good or this person is bad, but it's no really basis on that because another person can see that person and say that person is something else. But in track and field, it's a time you got to beat, and if you can beat that time, you at this level. But go ahead, Coach Ricky.
That's a good question. So first of all, I definitely am heavily involved in getting my kids to college. I think that's the responsibility of a lot of coaches. I'm all about that. That's the first thing. I think track and field is a little bit different than a lot of other sports in that, especially the gender. So let me give you an example. A lot of college coaches don't even look at females at a very young age until about juniors or I'll say sophomore, juniors, or seniors. And the reason why that, and I say males too, and I won't just call out because I don't want to get anyone to say, hey, why are you saying females? But sometimes it's because females change, the body types change over a period of time. And any college coach will tell you that. So they don't really start looking at some of these athletes until they're, they look at them, but they're not really excited about them until their sophomore, maybe their junior year, because your body can change so much in 1 to 2 years. And we've seen it happen. We've seen a kid that was phenomenal at 13 years old, but when she got to high school, or their production, their hormones and their body changes significantly, and they're not the same runner that they were in the 7th grade that they're now they're in the 10th grade. So that's the first thing. So knowing that, the recruiting process for college coaches know that as well. They think like that. So they get a little excited about what a kid running at 13 years old, running a phenomenal time, but they get extremely excited about what a kid is running when she's a sophomore, junior in high school. Okay? And it's the same thing with boys. Boys are, they're phenomenal at 13, 14, but they also know that a lot of boys who are phenomenal track runners typically are engulfed in football or some other sport when they get to high school. Say they're a different runner when they get to high school because they're lifting weights, they get a little bit more tighter and things like that. They become and is almost a full-time football player and a part-time track athlete. So they too also change. So college coaches are, as far as advertising and marketing, your number speaks for itself. They go to these websites we mentioned earlier, but they really don't get excited too much until a kid is, a sophomore, junior, or really a junior, senior in high school.
Like, what are some events that you must hit if you're very, very serious about track and field as far as youth and going on into to high school?
You mean to get recruited?
No, just like the markers. So, for instance, in basketball with my son, like you had to go to the Fab Frost camp. If you was calling yourself an elite player, you had to go to Fab Frost camp at I think that's like going into the 9th grade. So like all the top players that got drafted in the NBA, they was at the Fab Frost camp. That next year they was at Super Sophomore, another camp. So like, is there such thing like that in track and field? Well, there's certain camps where you get to run with some of the best players in the country.
I've never really looked into very many track camps, and Coach could probably tell you more about that down in Florida as possible. I do know there's like hurdle camps with Coach Colo and things of that nature, but nothing to the point where everybody's. No,
I'm sorry. I'm talking about events, not camps, but like what are the like
okay,
events?
So,
I apologize.
I would say for the younger kids, below high school. Obviously the AAU Junior Olympics, USATF Junior Olympics, AAU Club Championships, USATF, youth, they call Youth Nationals, I think now. There are a couple really good events that are like Memorial Day weekend, the Mark Trail track meet down in Atlanta. There's another one with the Atlanta Relays, and then the LA Jets have a really competitive meet. So those are like the really big competitive meets that you want to run it if you're a top athlete. As far as high school goes, obviously the New Balance indoor and outdoor nationals. There are a couple meets in Florida. I think they can run the Texas Relays. There's a meet out in California. So you can help me with that. There's a meet out in California in May.
Arcadia
Invitational. Yep. So the Arcadia Invitational is one of them. I'm drawing a blank after I named about 15 meets. I'm trying to think, Coach, is there any other meets you can think of on the high school?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, Coach, that's a good point. So if you're talking purely high school, we circle in about 3 or 4 meets that if you're trying to go to college, that you need to, if you medal in those meets, you probably put yourself on the map. And Coach mentioned a couple of key ones. If you can do New Balance, indoor and outdoor, if you can medal in the top 6 in that meet, in those 2 meets, you're probably going to put yourself on the map as far as a D1 level athlete. If you can medal in the Arcadia meet, which is in the West Coast, that's a meet that is also one of the top meets that you can go to. So those 3 meets I just mentioned, and obviously you got the Golden South in Florida, and you got a few other ones on the West Coast. But as it relates to high school recruiting and what coaches go to, those 3 or 4 meets, if you circle those meets outside of your state meet, those are the 4 meets that you have to go to if you want to get some pub.
What's the opening?
Show your worth.
What's the opening period where coaches can go and actually see these kids? Is that during the time of those meets, right? Or right?
Absolutely, they can go to all those meets.
Okay.
Some of them might run into like their meet for regionals and things of that nature. But if you go to New Balance Indoor Nationals, I went the last couple of years. Well, I went 2 years ago and the year prior to that. I think I saw a coach from every school in the country.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about top every school. I mean, you name it, they were there. I probably got 40 cards. And I talk to them. I'll go up and speak to them and ask them what they're looking for. And in coach, I'm sure he'll be able to tell you this too. A lot of those times are pretty ridiculous. I've had coaches tell me times they want the kids to run, and they don't have kids at their school running that fast.
Oh man.
I'm gonna actually mention one because I'm gonna be honest, tell you, it bothers me to this day. We got a kid in Ohio named Amon Thornton, and he won the state in the 800, and he ran 151. He's 6'2", and he's really, really raw. I mean, he's an excellent kid, great kid. I think he ran 47 in 400. So I reached out to North Carolina State because I have a kid in North Carolina State, and I talked to the sprint coach, and the sprint coach goes to the head coach, and the head coach said, yeah, he's not running fast enough. We need a kid to run 148. And I looked up their kid, and he was faster than every kid they had on their team in the 800. But they didn't want to look at him because he didn't run the time that would make it.
They trying to get a kid to keep his job, man. What you mean? He's trying to get better.
His job got to be safe because he ain't got nobody that can beat the best high school kid. So his job is to safe.
I got you.
A lot of these coaches that that are at those type of schools, they try to get kids that can go to indoor nationals or outdoor NCAAs, and they look at the time it takes the medal. They try to get those kids. And if you're not Florida, you're not Oregon, you're not Texas A&M, LSU, Kentucky, USC, and I'm sure there's a few more, Texas Tech, Miami, you're not getting those kids. I'm really, really good friends with the coach at Ohio State, and I think he's an amazing coach. Well, Joe Brown's the assistant track coach, Karen Dennis is the head coach. They're amazing coaches. But they don't get kids that, for boys that run 20 point in high school, for girls that run 22 high, 23 low in high school, they get 24.6 and they get 21.5, and they have to develop them. Whereas, Texas A&M, LSU, Oregon, USC, they're getting the top 3 or 4 or 5 kids in the nation. So they're getting kids coming in ready to go to NCAAs, whereas Ohio State has to take a kid and build that kid up to get to that point by the time they're a sophomore or junior. So there's a lot of different things to look at when it comes to that type of stuff, and I'm sure Coach will have a little bit of insight on that as well.
No, you're spot on, Coach. You're spot on. I got no add into that. Because you hit it right on the head.
Hey, Coach. So, question. So, if I'm a kid, and I'm doing this thing on my own, not on my own, but with very little guidance, how do I know the times? How would I find the times I need to run to go to a D1, D2, D3 3 school? What would I find those times at?
On the college athletic website. So if you look up, they have like scholarships. They call them scholarship standards. You can go on like any school's website. They'll have scholarship standards for a track athlete. It'll have a walk-on standard. It'll have a scholarship standard, and then it'll have like a full ride standard. And that full ride standard is like top 1% in the country.
Right. Oh. And so you can go right to the website. What Coach is saying is you can go to, if your kid want to go to FSU, you can go to FSU's sporting website, look up track and field. And under track and field, it's going to be a questionnaire or a scholarship standard. First of all, it's going to be a scholarship standard. And it'll be like a document. And that's just a standard that they use. Now, because you run those times, there's some other things come into play. You may not still get a full scholarship. Let's put that out there. Okay. But that's just saying, at a minimum, we need you to do this. Okay. But the other thing is to look at the website and the results of those conferences, and if they are, and look at their team roster. If they already got 5 kids running those standards in the 100, they're not going to use another scholarship on you because you're going to run those times. Because they already got 5 kids been running, they're all coming back. And they have limited scholarships. So they're not, so you run those times, but they got 5 other kids running those times. That does not mean you're going to get a full scholarship. That's very important to understand.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Coach, I kind of want to, jump into the whole figure. Like when Randy told me something that blew my mind. I don't understand it. I don't know how it's that way. Well, I kind of do understand it because I know everything is a business. College is a business, just as well as any other thing is a business. So, if Randy, if we on time with this, I want to know. Like, I hear y'all saying full scholarship. Most of the time, when we look at any other sport, a full scholarship means a full scholarship. Is it that track doesn't offer that many full scholarships? You said the 1%. 1% to get a full scholarship, man. That kind of got my eyes wide open, eyes open wide and mouth open wide as well, because I was shocked. Like, but then again, I understand, or I could understand why, but I'd rather get the explanation and justification from you all to let me know why, if my daughter is not one of the 1%, but still maybe top 5%, can't get a full scholarship to a college that she's being recruited by.
Well, Coach just said pretty much the biggest reason why is because there are limited scholarships. Track doesn't get, 70 scholarships like the football team. They get 12 or 13 for men, maybe 15 or 17 for women. And they got to field a team of, 50 or 60. So a lot of times you'll get people that are there, on 20%, 40, 50, 60, and then you might have, again, 1% that might have a full ride. And you got kids there that are walk-on, transfer walk-on because they want to run at a bigger school and hoping this coach can help them. But in terms of full ride, it's a rarity to get a full ride. Only way you're going to get a school is going to give out, even 4 or 5 full rides in a year is if they graduate a lot of kids. And again, they're going after those top. The girl he mentioned earlier that he coached, Michaela Mills, girls like that. They go after girls like that. They want them girls that can come here right now. We can put some work into them, and they're going to get on the podium at NCAAs, or they can win conference. That's the first thing they look at. They look at what it takes to make the finals at conference. And then they can make the finals at conference. That's one tier. They can make the finals at nationals. That's the big tier. And, I talked to someone the other day about a kid, Cameron Cooper, and he was from Detroit, Michigan. He's at Ohio State now. He started off at LSU, but he was the number 1 800-meter runner in the country. He ran 147 in high school at New Balance. That was the 5th fastest time in the history of track and field for high school. And he got offered 50% by his dream school, which was Oregon.
Yeah, that's very common. That's not so. I want to make sure you guys caught what Coach said. Okay, first of all, everyone can go to the website, go to Google, and say what's the limited scholarships for 2018, like NCAA limited scholarships. You can Google search that, and it'll show you all the scholarships that are available for each sport, and by division: Division NCAA 1, Division 2, 3, 4, NAIA, and junior college. It'll show you how many scholarships you get. So if you look at football D1, FBS gets about 85 scholarships. Okay, FCS gets 63 scholarships. Here's a caveat: cross country and track and field shares the same number of scholarships. So cross country and track men, cross country team and track men team share 12.6 scholarships total. Okay, so the average cross-country team has about 40 boys. Okay, the average track team has about 25 to 30 boys, and they all have to share 12.6 scholarships. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Now, track and field and cross-country girls share the same scholarships, and it's 18 scholarships with those two sports share. So the problem is that NCAA didn't give X amount of scholarships for cross-country and X amount of scholarships for track. They combined the two.
So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
I know you. Let me ask you one question right quick. I don't want you to go too far into it. So, but can you get an academic scholarship on the side of that sports scholarship? Yep, that's fine.
Can you stack it? Is what you're saying?
Yeah,
can you stack the scholarship?
Yes.
Yes. If you don't have a full scholarship, yes.
But is that to any percent? Is that to 85-15? Is that to is that any percent, any total? It doesn't really matter.
Any percent, which is well, here's the caveat. So a typical, whether we want to believe it or not, a lot of cross country kids have phenomenal grades, and track do too. But you're seeing a lot of cross country teams, their grades, they're expecting cross country athletes to come in there on academic scholarship. And so most cross-country teams, majority of cross-country teams, they get 0 to very little scholarships to them, unfortunately. So if your kid is a phenomenal 800-meter or a mile runner, okay, he can be out of his world. It doesn't matter. If he's trying to go to a heavy-loaded sprint program, NCAA program like at LSU, he still won't get no scholarship, because they're going to put their money in a sprint-heavy athlete. Very deep. So you can love LSU all you want. If you're a miler, you're not going to get any money at LSU. It's just not going to happen. You get it very little. If you want to be you can be a phenomenal sprinter, but if you're trying to go to Oklahoma State, you're gonna get very little money.
Right. Wow. And let me add a little bit to that. You were asking about the percentages. There are kids that get grants and Pell Grants and academic money, things of that nature. Also, I'm not sure if there's any other schools that do it. One thing that I know Ohio State does is, as far as the school, if you get any Pell Grant money at all, and Pell Grant money I think is based off of like what your parents make compared to their outgoing bills and things of that nature, and how much the school costs. So Ohio State can give you or FAFSA will give you a Pell Grant for $1,000. Ohio State will take that Pell Grant and pay for your entire school. So they'll keep the Pell Grant, but they'll also pay for your entire school because you have a Pell Grant. And they just started that, I think, a year and a half, 2 years ago. So there are some kids at Ohio State now that have a Pell Grant. They're going to school at Ohio State for free because they have the Pell Grant.
That's great. That's great enough. Go ahead, Coach.
So let me explain what Coach is saying, though, guys. Make sure you understand what he's saying. He's saying if you get Pell Grant, and let's say you get $3,000 a year, they'll give you a scholarship, full scholarship. It looks like a full scholarship, but what they're doing is they're taking whatever you get and adding on into that to make you get a full scholarship. Now, in football, if you get Pell Grant, you get a full ride, and sometimes you get the Pell Grant money in your pocket.
No, ain't no sometimes. Ain't no sometimes. That ain't no sometimes.
That's all the time.
That's all the time. That's all the time.
Yeah, and they will get it. And I play college football, so that's the biggest difference between college football and track.
I was talking to my son today, because I was talking to Randy previously about, he gave me a little insight. He didn't want to give this is my partner here, right? But he didn't want to give me the insight on what the whole thing was going to be as far as the scholarship wise. He wanted me to learn from you all, and I thank him for that, right? But I was telling my son a little bit that I heard from Randy. Do y'all think that the football get that or get that type of things or basketball because the money that it generates?
Yes.
That's it. Yes.
I told my son the same thing. I was like, that's an easy way to get money is football because you have way more fans there versus at a track and field meet.
Yeah.
Exactly. We got 113,000 fans every Saturday at the Horseshoe. So football can get way more than the track gonna get.
And then I know it has to do. I know a big thing also got to be facilities and all the other stuff. We ain't even gotten to that point yet. Like we have to come back to even talk to that point. So I know facilities are not the same as football and basketball. Can't be.
But here's the good news, guys. Here's the good news. I don't want to discourage anyone from trying to get in college track because it's a phenomenal experience. And I think there's a track program for 75% of the kids that want to run track in college. And here's what I'm talking about. You don't so what? Let's say you don't run the top 10 times in the country, or you're above average sprinter. You still can run track somewhere, but it may not be close to home. Okay, but you still can run track. There's a lot of programs still looking for athletes to run, especially females. Okay, that want to run and want to jump. There's still some programs out there for people that want to do that. Okay, and there are different levels. Division I, Division II, Division NAIA. They're looking. I know a lot of coaches still can't find athletes to this day. In fact, some of them had to give their scholarships way back to basketball, to other programs, because they couldn't find enough athletes.
I talked about that on the prior podcast. The thing about it is people got to realize, yes, it's only 3% of high school players that play football that get full scholarships to D1 schools, but if you have good grades, they have space for you because you play football. If you have good grades, and those D3 schools, they will have a academic scholarship that'll fit right for you because you play football. And like you're saying, it's the same thing in track. That's what you're trying to say. But you got to have the grades.
Yeah,
but you can't have.
You got to have good grades, but you can run anywhere. There's enough scholarships out there for a lot of people.
That's awesome. So is there a difference with the indoor and outdoor? Is there? I know that there's a difference as far as the how long it is, but is there a difference as far as recruiting or anything like that?
Yes. A lot of coaches won't recruit you based off your indoor times unless your indoor times are, I mean, they have to be absolutely ridiculous. I've actually reached out to coaches about some of my kids' indoor times that were, ranked in the top 10 in the nation, and they said, let's see who does outdoor. So I've actually gotten that on multiple occasions. So they want to see what you do outdoor. And not to go backwards, but I did want to kind of touch base on something that we were talking about earlier in terms of how to get your kid out there if you don't have a coach that's helping promoting things of that nature. If they're running fast times, 9 times out of 10, a coach is going to see them. But if not, well, like in Ohio, I know Ohio kids don't get looked at by California. You know what I mean? They don't really look in Ohio for track kids. But we have some amazing track kids that probably could go to a USC or UCLA. Do questionnaires and fill out questionnaire for every school. They ask you your times. They ask you your grades. They ask you your ACT, SAT scores. They ask you what clubs you're in. If you're in Glee Club, if you're a class president, all those things matter. And filling out questionnaires for the schools that you like or you want to visit or you're interested in, those coaches get those questionnaires and they read them and they look at them.
Okay.
I think Coach just said something very important. Our take on indoor is kind of unique because we're from Florida. So what I mean by that is there's no indoor facility in the state of Florida. There's none, zero. Right? So we don't have indoor track in Florida. We run a few meets, my team, but if you notice something, you've probably never seen Usain Bolt run an indoor meet. Because you've never seen that.
You're right.
Right? Okay. So you don't see a lot of Jamaicans running an indoor meet. So what our philosophy is, the money is in outdoor. So our primary focus has always been outdoor. It's going to always be outdoor. Now people run, all teams run indoor, okay? But the money is in outdoor. And that's our primary focus, always has been and will be.
Okay, all right, so you brought me to another question. Okay, is it better to be, a jack of one trade and a master of none, meaning you can do decent, top 5, top 6 in a whole bunch of different events, or be just, not the best guy, but a top 20 guy in one event? What's better to have, to get a scholarship, to get a better scholarship?
Tough question. Coach, you go ahead.
I'll be honest and tell you, I guess my answer, that's a very tough question. When you say jack of all trades, I mean,
I'm saying I'm gonna be specific. I'm gonna say to come at a decent track meet in the country, to come top 6 in 200, 100, and 400. Yeah, or just be good in the 800. But not be the best, but just be good in the 800. What is a coach going to be looking for? Is a coach looking for that, or is a coach looking for somebody who can put in a whole bunch of different events?
He would rather have the kid that can run the 1 through 4 because you can do so many different things with him. I mean, eventually they can specialize in one of those things. You can have a kid that can run the 1 through 4. Now he can run the open 1, 2, and 4 at a track meet, or he can run an open event. He can run both relays. So you can put him more places. So now, that whatever money you spent on him makes it a little bit more worth it because this kid can do more. Which brings me back to when I talked about the kid that went 151. The biggest knock on him was he didn't have an open 400-meter time this year.
Right.
He wanted to see he can do 2 things, and they couldn't see that. So one thing wasn't a big deal. If he could have done 2, he'd have got more looks. He ended up signing Illinois because Illinois is not really a huge track school compared to the Floridas and the LSUs and all those. I mean, they're not going to be competitive on the national level. So it's more of a setting.
I think, you need to have a coach that understands what he just said. Because if you don't have a coach that understands what he just said, to put you in that position throughout the year, it's going to happen. What he said is going to happen year and year and year after year. Right? So a coach, because he knows that, he will always put a kid who runs a phenomenal 800, he'll put him in the 400 every now and then, and put him in the 4x4, so he can show his multi-talent skills. Because it goes down, it comes back to scholarship limitations. If you know you got 12.6 scholarships and you got to split it 5 different ways, the more the kid can do, the more valuable he's going to be, which is more money he's going to get. The less he can do, unless he's going to win it, the NCAA, all right, it becomes, there's a whole bunch of him. There's a whole bunch of him that looks just like him.
I got you.
Right, but but the more he can do, and if you take a look at what happened in the NCAAs for boys and girls, the top sprinters, Grant Holloway, Divine, all of them ran multiple events plus the 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
Plus
yeah,
the
like
4x4.
That girl from LSU. I just started watching her this year, and I was like, everything I watched her run, she was like winning everything. And then I thought she started to go pro. Now, that sparks a question in me, right? So I know she's that 1% you all were talking about that would get a full-ride scholarship there, 100%. I'm not sure if she got that or not, but for the most part, I know she'll be that 1%, right, that gets that full-ride scholarship. Now, my son was like, Dad, you know, most of the, we was talking about the same thing again, all over the same thing. He was like, also, Dad, think about this. NBA players, they're going after that first year. And he said something about her. She leaving the first year, go pro. So, you know, I'm not really sure, you know, like, what's the, I can't even remember what, like, what was the most, like, with her running the time she ran and what she did, is that a good avenue for parents also to think about, okay, look, you run this time, maybe you can go pro, or are you, like, how do you coach them up to that level where she's at mentally to make those kind of moves she's making? Just like they go in NBA after 1 year and football players after 3 years go pro. Like, do y'all stay in contact with y'all people that your athletes to say, hey, it may be a good idea to think about doing this after this year? Do y'all stay in contact with the athletes throughout the whole process, or how does that go? Or are you limited to so much you can do?
Let me just give you some point reference on the LSU runner, Shakari Richardson. When she was in high school, she ran 11-1. Okay, and that, all right.
Wow. So
what that means is that the pros were running 11-1, and she was in high school doing that. Okay, so she just ran a 10.75, which is number 4 in the world, number two in the world at the time. She's number 2 in the world of all sprinters. Okay, there's a window that every track athlete has that is probably from age 21 to about 28. Okay, so you got a small window of this thing, and every year there's somebody coming out faster. That's the first thing. The other thing you got to keep in mind: every 4 years we have the Olympics. So the time to get the money as a top sprinter is the year before the Olympics. So the Olympics is next year. Mm-hmm. She's rolling right now. Mm-hmm. She had to get the money now and take that opportunity now. Okay, it would have been a mistake to try to do it next year and try to run college track and field all year long, then prepare for the Olympics trial and run the Olympics. It would have been too long of a season. Mm-hmm. So she had to get the money now. Any kid that's rolling right now, Grant Holloway had to get the money now. He had to go pro now if he's going to run in the Olympics. So all the kids who rolling right now this year need to turn pro because they know the Olympics is next year. And they can't do college and Olympics at the same time. It's too difficult. Mm-hmm. It's too long of a season. Mm-hmm. So, yes. We talk to our kids.
When they go pro, they can't go back to college, nothing like that.
You cannot go back pro. You're getting millions of dollars. Well, I won't say millions. You're getting a lot of money. We don't get the kind of money. Track and field doesn't get the kind of money. There's only a few events that get the kind of money that even, you know, as $1 million, right? There's only 3 or 4 events that you're going to get that kind of money. If you're a high jumper, you're not getting rid of $1 million of your contract. It's just not going to happen. Unless you breaking records, unless you got a phenomenal dad that knows how to negotiate for you, like Vassie. But very few high jumpers, very few long jumpers. You're probably gonna have to be a 100, 200 meter runner. That's the glamour run, or a 400 meter runner that's getting, or, you know, very few runners are getting that kind of money right now.
A lot to know. So I want to break off into this question, because it's way more to know than like basketball and football. It's a whole lot. But I mean, I guess when you do it, it comes easy to you. So, but this is a big time question. Like, we talked to Southern, and Southern's gonna come on to the podcast because we talked about HBCUs and we felt like their lack of effort to recruit, especially at Trinity and some Florida schools and stuff like that. We were really disappointed in that effort. So my thing is, I'm thinking, with the track team being so small compared to, a football team and stuff like that, you only need a couple superstar runners that HBCUs will have a better chance on the national track level. But I'm not sure of that. How are HBCUs doing compared to D1 schools? I mean, that's a D1 school, but I'm saying on that level.
Well, I think North Carolina A&T is definitely on any college track and field team level. The thing with HBCUs is they don't have the money that some of these other schools have. I'm not sure exactly what Pat Henry makes at February end, but I bet you he makes probably 5 times the amount that the coach at North Carolina A&T makes. Norfolk State had a really good sprinter. Hampton's had good track teams. Florida Memorial actually tried to hire one of the best track coaches, in my opinion, in the country. His name is Garfield Ellenwood.
Oh yeah, I know Garfield. Yeah.
Okay, and they actually tried. They had him hired, and then wouldn't help him, move his family, and wouldn't give him an extension to come to school. They wanted him to show up at July 1st instead of August 1st because he needed till August 1st to move his family. They told him, no, you got to come now or, don't come. So he decided not to come. So things like that, if Coach knows Garfield, he'll tell you, Garfield, to me, like I said, he's got to be one of the best coaches in the country. I mean, he's an amazing coach. He coaches from the top, pro athlete, and you're going to get this at an HBCU in Florida. I mean, obviously the pro athletes are going to follow him because he's going to be in Miami training. So you're going to have a chance to have pro athletes like a Christina Manning down there training with her and other people. That's going to be huge for that school. And they dropped the ball. So can they compete? Absolutely. I think one of the biggest issues is money. And then just like in football, if I got a son that's cornerback is 6'2" and he runs a 4.3 40 and he's one of the best cover corners in the country, I'm not pushing him to go to Central State or Alabama A&M. I'm saying let's go to Ohio State because the goal is always we want to go pro, and that's we can get everybody to go to the HBCUs. And the HBCUs would be getting all the money instead of these other schools, but that's not the mindset. I know Coach got a lot to add to that.
Well, I think Coach is saying something very important, and it goes back to funding, right? And most HBCUs are not fully funded track programs. So let me explain what I mean when you hear the word. So that's a question that as you're getting recruited, that the parents should be asking a college coach, is this program fully funded? Here's what that means. Did the NCAA give you the full amount of scholarships of 12.6 for boys or 18 for girls? And a lot of the HBCUs and some other programs, we live in Jacksonville, for example. The boys program is not a fully funded, boys or girls, JU, for example, Jacksonville University, is not a fully funded program for boys, which means it doesn't have a boys program. There's 0 scholarships to run track for boys at JU. It's a fully funded program for girls. Okay? And FIU, one of those programs is not a fully funded program for boys. University of South Florida is not a fully funded program for boys. It only gets about 10 scholarships or 8 scholarships or something like that. Not the full 12.6. It's fully funded for girls because of Title IX. So an HBCU, because their programs don't generate as much revenue, a lot of times they're not fully funded. So they don't have the full amount of scholarships. And nor do they have the full amount of funding for coaches. A typical track and program, it normally has 6 full-time coaches for track and field. Sometimes they're not fully funded. They normally have about 2 or 3. UCF, for example, it's the University of Central Florida. is not a fully funded program for boys. So what that means is it's 18 scholarships for girls and only 3 full-time coaches. Okay? So the problem you have with HBCUs and any of these schools, just not HBCUs, is are there other programs generating enough revenue to warrant a track and field program?
Right.
And is it funded, right? How is it funded? Wow.
That's crazy. I mean, that's a lot to think about. So like with me, and we getting closer to the end of the thing, but with me, I'm like this, man. So like I have, my daughter, my kids and stuff like that, and if I'm going to take them all around the country to the AAU Nationals and to New Balance and to this event and that event and spend all this money, like it's just like eating. So if you're preparing your meal, I want everything on my plate. I want the peas, I want the mashed potatoes with the gravy, I want the steak with the hot sauce and stuff like that. So what I mean saying this was what I mean. If I'm gonna do all this stuff, I'm shooting for that full scholarship. So that what I mean by that is if I can get 50 from track and I can get the rest of the 50 from academic, and then still get the Pell Grant so she can have some money in her pocket, I'm shooting for the whole plate. So that's some parents have to really think about. We've got to think about that in that aspect, So.
That's right. So if your kid is a female and she ain't running the standard times right now, or for some of the schools that she want to go to, then you better be asking her, you better make sure you have phenomenal grades, okay, and set realistic expectations that, you might not get a full ride here, but you may get 30%, right? And have realistic expectations when it comes to recruiting.
Yep. Sure. And then don't forget about the the ACC needs to be above, I think, a 24. I believe. That's kind of starting there, about a 24 or something like that. But so the
18 depending on the GPA.
Oh yeah, I know the scholarship is 18, but like I'm talking about for an academic scholarship. Y'all don't think you get no academic scholarship? You didn't get no academic scholarship.
That varies per school.
Per school.
Right.
But so
you score 24 at a Notre Dame, you ain't getting in.
Oh yeah, that's true. And that's 28, 29, something like that. Yeah, something like that. But one of the last questions I want to ask you guys before we close this thing on out is you said this earlier, Ricky, but what are some other things that parent and a student athlete should ask a coach? You said like two different things. You said fully funded, and then the other thing you said, can't remember what you said. Fully funded and something else. But what are some other things that they need to ask a coach when they talk to them on the phone?
Well, it's a lot of things, man. I mean, if depending on your athlete, right? First of all, they said ask is it fully funded? And if your kid is looking to get a full ride, sometimes you got to ask, does that include the cost of living, which means a stipend? Okay, if they're one of these top athletes, so we always ask that question, and then it also comes back to academics. Can my kid want to major this, and is this something that you're going to support? And is there anybody else on this team that has majored this before that you guys can deal with this? For example, if a kid wants to major nursing and running track, you need to be having a conversation with the coach before you go there. Because taking the labs, the science classes, and all that kind of stuff, or pharmacy, any of this kind of stuff, you need to make sure you got a coach that really understands and has done this before with a top athlete who wants to major something like that. Very important. Because I see so many kids say they want to major exercise science or physical therapies, and they want to do this, and they want to do all this track, and you can do that. But you got to pick the right program that's going to help you do that. Okay, because some of these top programs, I won't say top, I'll just, because people might get mad at me if they hear this part, but you just ask that question. Because sometimes coaches are so worried about you winning NCAA versus you getting your degree that you said you're going to get.
Oh yeah, I've said this before, you can miss a test and make it up for a game or a practice. But you're not missing a game or a practice necessarily, or most likely a game or an important practice for a test. For a test, it doesn't work out like that. They move it around to you missing the other thing. But what I wanted the point I wanted you to get across also was is it like a bargaining chip thing? Because like when I was talking to you, Coach Tremaine, like it's kind of like in track, you can kind of like it's like almost like a car salesman. So they'll tell you 40. You be like, no, I'm good, and you might come back and get 60. Is that something that happens? 60%.
I mean, it's happened. It's happened without doing anything, and then other times it's happened when the kid ran faster. One of my kids, his name is Evan Matthews. He ended up being the #1 ranked 300-meter hurdler in the country at the end of the season for high school. He ran 36.12, and he got offered, I think 50 or 60% from Ohio State. He dropped that 36.12. That 50 or 60 went to 100 because they know 36.12 gonna get you in any school with a lot of money. So they had to give him more money. So, I mean, the bargaining chip is running fast.
Okay.
But if you really want a kid, if you feel like you can develop a kid, I've seen, kids say, nah, I'm not going to take the 40, and then they ended up getting, 60 maybe. So it happens, but it's a rarity, and it depends on the school, the situation, how much money they have left to give a kid, because sometimes they're offering 40 because that's all they have.
Correct.
They might want to give a kid 80%, but they only got 40 to give because they got so many kids there on scholarships. So it just depends on the situation, the school, and how much money they have.
I don't mean to keep going reiterate on that, but like, shouldn't I just ask him that before I waste my money to travel my butt up there? You know what I'm saying? So is that disrespectful if I say, hey, you want me to come to your school and tour at North Carolina or whatever, but hey, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if you offer us, how much percent do you have? Is that respectable, or is
no, not at all. I had kids ask that question. I mean, if I'm coming there, like, tell me what are you looking to offer me now? I mean, somebody like Sha'Carri Richardson, she definitely should say that because she's that good. If you're good enough, you can say those things because if the coach really wants you, he wants to have you there. He knows he got to ante up. And those are for, like I said, those are for the better kids. The kids that are running. I won't say better because all kids are good. They're running track and they're training hard. Mm-hmm. But I'll say the kids that are faster.
Coach is saying something there. Yeah. Yeah, he's hitting on something. You asked a good question. Through this recruiting process, because I went through it with my own daughter, 90% of the coaches are not going to tell you what they're going to offer you until you come on campus. Mm. And unless you are the top 1 or 2 athletes. Okay, even then, I know some coaches, I'm not going to name them, but there are some prestigious programs. If you ask that question over the phone, they're probably going to tell you not to come visit them. And that's okay, because that tells you a lot about the coach. And we didn't visit them because of that. Okay. But I can tell you right now, some of the top, there's a lot of programs that will not talk about what they're going to offer you unless you come on site and you like what they're offering outside the money, for example. Okay, but if you're a Sha'Carri Richardson or some of these kids that are top 1, 2 in the country in their event, and there's a need, they're going to tell you, hey, we're going to give you 4. They'll tell you on the phone, we'll give you anything you want. Okay.
But you did tell me,
for the most part.
Yeah, you did tell me that that on official visits they just pay for the kids, not the family, right?
Correct. Well, and that's not supposed to be like that. What he's saying is you can do 5 official visits technically. And this year, just so you know, they started it. It's supposed to be after your junior year, heading to your senior year. Mm-hmm. Now it's after your sophomore year, heading into your junior year. They can do this. You can do official visits, and they'll pay for it. Most track programs pay for the athletes to, room and board, flight, and transportation, not the parents or siblings.
Unless you're Sha'Carri.
well, even then, they probably won't. They don't have the funding that football have as far as recruiting funding to do that for a lot of the parents and stuff like that.
Right, they might reimburse you some gas money or something if you
do gas money. But as far as getting your mom and dad hotel and all that, and by the way, NCAA rules, they can only give you three football tickets, 3 tickets to a game.
Huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about it, I don't want to sound like that person that because I'm doing a football thing that I don't understand. I just want parents to know it is different. It's different. It's not the same recruiting and just take it like that. Take it for what it's worth and learn how to learn the game or whatever. I'm just surprised. I didn't know
the game. Know the game, because when a kid, everybody who says they're committed, that doesn't mean they're getting a scholarship. And every kid that said they're getting a full scholarship in track and field doesn't mean they're getting a 1.0 scholarship. That means, because sometimes most kids who are getting a 1.0, they're probably getting financial aid plus a scholarship, and no stipend.
Right.
A 1.0 means I'm getting a 100% scholarship, full scholarship without financial aid, plus I'm getting a stipend, which is the cost of living stipend.
That's big. That's big.
Man, y'all just dropped y'all put everybody when they hear this, and you know, like y'all really, this is very, 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 very good podcast, man. Y'all really dropped some nuggets and jewels in this one here, man, because I'm blown away. Like, I'm still, like, awed up. Like, I'm like, what, really? Like, never would have thought it was this way, you know?
Yeah.
Never would have thought it was this way.
Definitely, because
It's a lot different. You know, once you know everything and get some of the rules, and you talk to a lot of different coaches, and you have kids that they recruited. And one thing that Coach said earlier that I want to reiterate is, you know, everybody, well, about 75% of kids that run track can go to college to run track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's
You can run.
NAIA, Division 1, 2, 3. Division 3 don't get out money, I don't think. I've never heard Division teachers give money, but they find ways for it. There's a school out here that they find ways to get a kid that the kid can help them with. And they'll give them, you know, different type of academic things and grants and things of that nature. But there's something for everybody if this is what you want to do. So, you know, hopefully we didn't discourage anybody from, you know, running track, because, again, to me, it's the greatest sport in the world in terms of the camaraderie, the people you meet, talk to, and then the people you battle with. You're right next to them. It's not one sideline versus the other sideline. I mean, we're right there together. You know, we might not talk before the race. At the end of the race, we're best friends. So, you know, I have kids that have friends all over the country. I know Coach does. I've met a lot of coaches and families and friends and kids, you know, do this journey, man, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So
No, sir.
It's a great sport.
Yeah, and I played college football, so I've done a little bit of both, right? And you know, I agree with Coach. It's one of the greatest sports in the world, and I have daughters who can't play football, so and I think this is a great sport for men and women. So I don't want to discourage anyone, but I just want to make sure you know you understand the facts and the rules, and as recruiting season comes up, you know what you're getting into.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. We definitely gonna put that out so these parents can get this info, and kind of have that sword, have that shield. You know, have something to go with, not just listen to. That's the problem in recruiting process. The coaches know the whole game, but even in football and basketball, the parents don't pass the information back down to other parents. So everybody goes in there and makes some of the same mistakes, and the coaches not get over, but yeah, they get over. They do.
They get over.
they get over. So
if you guys don't mind, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you guys don't mind, I got a question I wanted to ask Coach, because I think he's probably has experienced some things in his coaching career. But Coach, how often have you gotten you know, negative feedback or kickback from high school coaches versus your athlete, where they don't want the kid to either be trained by you or to run on the track?
So let me make sure let me frame what he's asking. Okay. There's always a conflict between a club coach and high school coaches, right? And this is what he's talking about, the conflict. And have I received? I coach in St. Johns County area. I coach a lot of kids that don't necessarily go to the high school that I coach at as well. They go to other local high schools, and the conflict comes in when the kid wants to still be coached by me, but run for another different high school. So I've had a rule that I try to not coach a kid during this high school season as much, and unless I've done it once or twice, and it's because of that conflict. And what I try to do is, unless they're going to fully let me coach him and not let somebody else coach him at the high school at the same time I'm trying to coach him, I don't want two people in the kid's ear. So I get a lot of conflict all the time, but I've tried to eliminate that a long time ago. And I tell the parents and I tell the coaches, I'm gonna only coach a kid if I'm the only one coaching him. And if he go to a local high school, great. But if you go to local high school, and he want me to coach him, he's going to only be coached by me, not by two other people, another person. Otherwise, having two philosophies coming at a kid, two people coming at a kid, telling them what to do, organizing his events and all that kind of stuff is too much for a kid. And that's where you see injuries. That's where you see confusion. I've had it all the time, but a lot of people know me in this area, so I've kind of tried to avoid that. But the first couple of years, it was an issue.
It'd be kind of hard to build and break habits at the same time, man. So I see what you're saying. Like, I'm the coach, but I can understand the logistics behind what you're saying.
And
yeah, man.
The reason why I asked that was because, a lot of the high schools here in Ohio, their head coach is a cross-country coach.
Right.
They're trying to coach sprinters and have zero idea of how to do so. So they're out there doing a lot of volume as opposed to what they should be doing. Exactly. And then when, the club coach like myself or coach intervenes, or even, I've actually reached out and tried to be, hey, coach, can we just sit down and talk? And they just kind of go over, such and such as, training phase and philosophy and things you're doing with him and his regimen and what, and they'll talk, but they don't listen. And then it becomes a conflict. So I just had to ask that to see if it's the same, in
No, it's the same across the country, and that's the age-old challenge: club coaches versus high school coaches. And there's also it's kind of leaking into club coaches versus college coaches. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
So that same issue is still leaking in, and I believe one person needs to coach a kid at a time. And
absolutely.
And I believe, if a parent wants me to coach their kid and they go to a different school, one, I'm going to have to be the only one coaching them at the time. And we have to get that cleared by the local high school, and they really understand that I'm going to be setting up the regiment and the training cycles and all that. I'll do that. Otherwise, what we've seen in Wade, you've even seen it with some people right?
Mm-hmm.
And that if I do an off-season regiment and it's following my periodization, I follow a certain periodization that gets a kid into the summer. But if a kid's with me for the first 12 weeks in October, November, December, I'm setting that up because in the next 3 months I'm doing something different. Well, what I've seen is when I do the periodization and off-season conditioning, as soon as a kid leaves me, they go to the local high school. The local high school is trying to do what I've already done. So they're doing long distance running and all this other stuff. We've already done that. We ready to sprint, right? So that's what we've seen the challenge, and if I'm going to coach the kid, I'm going to coach him. They're going to follow our periodization and our cycle and our training regimen. Otherwise, when you mix two in there like that, you see regression in the athlete and sometimes injuries.
Exactly.
I hear you. So what we're gonna do is, because we way past time, but it's a lot of good information. So we'll put this information out here, let it kind of sink into our listeners, and next time maybe bring you back and just do like a live podcast where we can have some people call in with some personal questions and some information. I really think we're gonna get a lot of good feedback from this podcast. But I just want to get some last thoughts from both of you guys, both of you coaches.
Coach, you go ahead, please.
Just to reiterate a couple of things that we talked about, either questionnaires, if you're looking to get publicity, talk to your coaches, see if they have any connections with colleges, and reach out to those colleges, because you never want to sell yourself short. Everybody wants to go to Florida and Oregon and Texas A&M and LSU and schools like that, but there's also other schools that can help you get better and help you run fast. I mean, there may be great coaches at Division II schools, which I know there are. There may be great coaches at NAIA schools, HBCUs. So don't sell yourself short. Leave all your options open. My biggest thing with my kids is the first thing we talk about is those grades, those books, those scores. I mean, if you can be the fastest person in the world, if you can't pass a test, you can't go to school anyway. So that's the most important thing, is staying focused on your grades, because that's one of the first questions that I've always been asked by a college coach. Okay, she runs fast. What's her GPA and what are her test scores? So they always want to know those things. So those are probably the biggest things that I would say. And again, we didn't want anybody to be discouraged, but great information that we gave today, and hope you guys use it.
Thanks, Coach.
In my piece again, thanks for having me. I think it's phenomenal to share this stuff. When I went through this process about 5 years ago with my daughter, I too, I'm a former athlete. I get it, right? But track is a different animal, and I'm a scientist in the data. So I look at the data, and research. I study colleges. I was unusual because I studied what college my kid wanted to go to when she was coming to her sophomore year. So we did our homework. I advise, either a coach or a parent to help a kid do their homework because it is a maze to get through. This is not easy. But once you figure it out and figure out what makes coaches tick, colleges tick, and where to go and where you should go, it's a phenomenal sport. But at the end of the day, it's still all about a means to get to a degree. It's not about, some people turn pro, very few, but the majority of track athletes don't turn pro. So you have 4 years to get the best you can get out of it and get your degree. So again, good feedback, great messaging. I really enjoyed coaching, both the coach as well. So looking forward to more conversations about this.
I appreciate it. All right, man, take us out, Frankie Rock.
Hey, like the kids say, man, this podcast is like that. This is probably one of the most informative podcasts we've done so far, man. So, like we always say, man, we want all y'all to get the information you need to be successful in life. But most of all, we want y'all to stay smooth, and we're gonna be all right.
All right, see y'all next podcast. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.